A photograph does not tell a story. Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business. You might wonder what I just said, that I said that a photograph does not tell a story, even though I've been telling you that for quite a few times on this channel, that a photograph can tell a story. But I also said many times that the story that a photograph tells is different for each of us. I have a different story when I'm making the image, or different things in my mind, and so will the viewer. So what is all this about? I watched this video from Michel Kanaskevich. He was telling about the same thing, and it is something that I've been wondering quite a bit and thinking about how that is that in street photography the story might be different for each other. And I'll get back to what Kanaskevich said in a bit, but before that I will tell you a little bit about the differences between documentary photography, journalistic photography, and street photography, even though they all can be considered to be in the bigger umbrella of documenting something. But the difference between journalistic and documentary photography to street photography was explained in this video where I was talking about my 5-image story that I'm actually working on right now. The difference is that in documentary and journalistic photography, the photographer has a story in their minds when they start doing documenting or journalistic photography. Of course, the approach might be a little bit different. Journalistic is more about current affair, some newsworthy thing, and documentary is more of a long-term project about something that can be happening in the world or some conflict in the world or whatever that is. But it's usually a long-term project when the journalistic thing is more about getting that photograph out for the newscast that starts in 15 minutes, just to exaggerate a little bit, but you get the point. In street photography, you as a viewer will make the story, and that is the big difference. In street photography, the photographer does not tell you what to think or what the story is about, like it is sometimes in documentary and journalistic thing, or the part that they will tell a story to you and you will see the same story. Of course, the opinion, what you think about it is different. But in street photography, the story is open. But how the story comes to life when you're talking about street photographs? Usually stories are made of several images, several words. They're very seldom a story with one image and one word. Like if you look at the movies, you got 24 images in a second, and in books you have lots and lots of words. They make up the story. And the same thing goes, to be honest, with photography too, that only one image might not be a story itself, but if you put several images, like I was doing the 5 images on my 2 previous videos, which is still ongoing, and the third part will be published either next week or the week after. It depends on how much time I have to finish that. But where does the idea come that you have a story in one single image? Because we can see a story in an image. According to Kanaskevich, it comes from the clues that the photographer leaves for you, and those builds up your creativity, your imagination when you start thinking about different things that have maybe happened to you, or you have certain type of experience, and that we all have different experiences because we lived in different lives in different places and all that. That makes the story for us different. A street photograph is an open canvas for you. You use your imagination. And I think that is something that I've talked before, but I haven't really been able to express how that all works. And I think that Kanaskevich had the video, and I will link the video in the description because I think it was a kind of revelation the way he explained it. And I think it was one of the most interesting videos about storytelling. But since it's photography, let's look at a few images and see what I mean by that. I have several images here, as you can see, and then I will combine these in different ways and talk about a single image. If we first start with this image here. This is from Strasbourg railway station. And I saw this woman walking towards, and all of a sudden there was some noise in the background and she turned around. Maybe, she was a little bit scared. Maybe she had some bad experience in railway stations traveling alone or whatever that could be. And you might see the same story in this image because maybe you've had some similar experiences walking alone in a, a little bit sinister looking place, maybe in a railway station or some other alley, and been a little bit scared and felt some anxiety. And you might feel that. And your story is, the basic part might be the same, but your story is a little bit different because you've experienced that in a different place, in a different situation. And or maybe not. Maybe you not can't relate this at all. Maybe you think that she's waiting for a friend that was left behind. Where did she go? Where did he go? That could be also. And of course, the image editing part is big part when I'm kind of imagination my story. Of course, I will make the image look that how I felt about the story when I was making the image. But that's one example. And then if we take the second image here, which is taken in Helsinki in Kauppahalli, it's a kind of like a food court type of thing where they sell food, and they have, of course, some ingredients too. It's not only restaurants but food stores and stuff like that. It's a very old building, and this is just three people sitting in a cafeteria, but you could kind of imagine a story for this. What are these people talking about? The two ladies in the back, and the look on the older lady's face on the right is kind of interesting. And what is she? Is there some conflict going on, or is she, because of the clue, the suggestion, or the pose that she has? Maybe it's just that she's scratching her head, or is she ashamed of something, or what is it? Is it a mother than a daughter, or so? Or what is it? We could all relate to a conversation like this in our lives. And then we have this guy on the left that is more to bring a little bit interest into the photograph, a layer to get our concentration, or not concentration, but our view inside the image. And also he's talking to someone that we don't know who he's talking to, or that's exactly how it looks like, because he's not just by himself, because if it was, he was probably, the pose and the way he was sitting would be different. But we don't know who is he talking to. And that's also can boost our imagination, and we can think of almost anything what's going on there. Or maybe he's just looking, there's something happening there outside the frame. This is also from downtown Helsinki. This is also something that we don't know what's going on here. There is a girl approaching this boy. Maybe it's his sister, and the guy is kind of looking and saying, I'm sorry. Maybe they were looking at him or looking for him. Maybe he was lost and they wanted to go, or she needs to get her to her family, to their family, and we need to go, or something like that. Or I don't know what is going on. I don't know if you have any stories about these images. I put some numbers so that you can remember the number, and maybe write a comment down of what do you see in these images, and what is the story in your mind. Be interesting practice and kind of like an exercise for you too, if you want to learn more about and make your imagination work. And this is a very good practice also for your own photography, because then when you see things, you might boost up your imagination and start making images that have more interest, because it will raise some questions and interest in the viewer's eye, which always makes an image a lot more interesting. Then we have this image of a lady in an escalator going down to the bus station in below a mall, which I've been photographing lately quite a bit. This one is, I think, is from last year, this image. But it's an interesting place because it has these reflections and different colors and artificial light, and some natural light comes in. And, it's an interesting place. I go here almost every time I go out and photograph, because there's always something to photograph, people with their luggage. And usually if I can find some colorful things, that makes the photograph more interesting. And I would say that this image is more just a visually pleasing looking image, in my opinion. I don't know, what do you think? And that's something that can also be, and this image by itself, I don't think it works at all. Or it could be. As I said, it's a visually interesting image, but I don't see a big story here, because there is too many clues. There is the suitcase, the escalators. You know that, okay, she's going somewhere or coming from somewhere, and there isn't really a story. If there was someone else looking at her, or some peculiar person in the background or something, then there could be a story. And let's see if this works with... If we take these two images and see how this works. Okay, now this could work a little bit better because of the stare to the right from the left image. She's looking straight at her, so there's a connection. So this could build up a story. Maybe she was leaving her to the bus station and needed to go back, and I was looking back and a little bit missing her or something. You could think about that. But then if we start thinking about two images, since we had that image, let's pair that image with this one. The girl is looking at the man and the man is looking back, or the other way around, and there could be something connected between these two. And we all had these situations when then there is someone that we've missed or maybe admired from a little distance or left behind or whatever that could be. But then if we take this image with this, the story changes a lot. The metro station escalators, and the other one is taken in the metro, and so there's a connection right there. And maybe this could be a part of story about the metro, and there is a connection between these two people. They're looking at each other, which is always kind of makes up the story. What do you see in these two images? Is there a story in your opinion? What's your imagination tells you when you're looking at these two images? And then let's go back to this image. If we look at this image alone, then this becomes a little bit more sinister in my opinion, because there could be a stalker. This guy is looking at, stalking the girl in the image. That could be kind of like a representing of that type of thing. As I mentioned in the first image, we all had these experiences that we're walking somewhere and might feel a little anxiety, a little bit unease, because the place that we are is not something that is very comfortable for us. So that is the clue to a story in this image. You might see something totally different. Maybe it's a image of the guy that's in her mind, the girl that's walking there. Maybe it's a guy in her mind. It depends how you want to see this. And this all comes from how you see the world based on your own experience. And let's continue. Then if we have this group here where the girl is making this clue and what's going on here, most likely, and which is also the guy who is photographed from the back is adjusting a phone. They're taking a group shot, the selfie type group shot, and they were playing around a little bit there and the others are waiting. But yeah, you could build up a different types of stories for what it is and what the group is, where you might remember some fun thing when you were traveling with a group and had a really great time, or it all depends on as I said many times already, what is your background. And that's the biggest and the most interesting part of this type of photography, that the photograph is a canvas for your imagination. I think that's, and your stories. I think that's a better way than saying that photographs are telling stories. Maybe the photograph is the canvas for your imagination. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And then if we have one more, let's take this, which is also interesting. And you don't know what's going on. The guy is looking at the bike and waiting, and the lady is looking some map maybe, or some timetable or whatever from the backpack of that guy. And also, if this could be connected to another image, it could be about a story, about a journey somewhere. I always, when I make these images, I combine them with two different images or several different images, so that this could be a pair, or maybe this way rather, or the other way around. I'm not sure which way is better. This could be a story that they are, part of that group and they're lost and they don't know where to go. Of course, they're a little bit different age, but nevertheless, I don't think that's so important. It's more about metaphors and symbols that these people in the photograph represent. And if you want to learn more about storytelling, just click the link about urbanstreetnarratives.com workshop that we're having with Matti Sulanto and Robin Wong and myself in Kuala Lumpur in the 30th of March and April 3rd next year, 2026. The whole point is to learn about street photography, learn about urban photography, learn about storytelling, and especially storytelling with several images. The whole point is to make 5 image set during the week. And you will have, of course, the opinion from me, Matti, and Robin. We're all a little bit different, and we have a little bit different perspective based on, of course, because we have lived different lives and photograph a little bit different things and think about photography a little bit different, even though there are a lot of similarities. But if you're interested in that, just take a look at our website and sign up. There are still available spots, but they're going fast, so be fast. Storytelling in street photography is not the image itself, but the clues that the image have. So a street photograph kind of lures your imagination to work and making up the story. We're not telling you what the story is. It's about your imagination, which also helps your photography, because I think this thing that Kanaskevich said in his video is something that will change the way I think about street photography. And if something that happens, it usually, elevates your photography. I haven't really applied to this idea before, but that's something that I will start doing more and thinking about a little bit differently. And here is the video, Kanaskevich video, and the other one is about the workshop. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.